The Falun Gong is a Chinese cult started in 1992 by Li Hongzhi, who claims to be a supernatural being from another dimension sent to Earth to save humanity through a combination of breathing exercises and books on tape. The pitch is that if you follow Master Li's teachings, you can eventually cleanse your body of all weakness and illness and eventually transcend the fleshy prison of the cursed human world and ascend to a higher plane of existence where you can become a perfect godlike being, much like Master Li himself. It's a lot like Scientology, basically. And much like Scientology, as long as you profess undying loyalty to the Master, you will eventually be saved when the era of great cleansing comes and the enlightened are separated from the impure. Incidentally, in Master Li's world, impure behavior includes things such as using medicine, homosexuality, and race mixing. So yes, the whole thing seems a bit nuts. But hold on to your hats, because it gets even weirder from here. You see, we are not supposed to say too many mean things about the Falun Gong people, because they are so heavily persecuted by the Chinese government. Much like the Romans in Jesus' time, the Chinese Communist Party considers Master Li to be a troublemaker whose wacky beliefs could undermine their tyrannical hold on the public. So Falun Gongism is banned in China, forcing Mr. Li to preach his nonsense from New York, where he has lived in exile since 1998. According to Amnesty International, over the last 20 years, tens of thousands of Falun Gong practitioners have been arbitrarily detained as part of a campaign of intimidation and persecution targeting the group. Practitioners have been held in psychiatric hospitals, re-education through labor facilities, a form of administrative detention imposed without charge, trial, or judicial review, or sentenced to long prison terms. Because we in the West do not really like the Chinese communists, particularly how little respect their government seems to have for the right of freedom of religion in that country, there has been a lot of pressure over the years to not be too critical of the Falun Gong. The thinking is that if we concede that the Falun Gong is a cult, which it very obviously is, we will be legitimizing the pretext that the Chinese use to suppress freedom of religion in general, particularly to Christians and Muslims. The Chinese state argues that religion is something inherently dangerous and subversive, and thus needs to be controlled by the government. And we in the West say, no, religion is good and harmless, even though we all know on some level that that's not always true. Religious groups can, in fact, be bad things, but the Chinese have gone way too far with this conclusion, and we don't want to give them any moral cover for doing that. As a result, when the Falun Gong is talked about in America or Canada or Europe or wherever, you are very likely to hear a lot of euphemistic language about how it is just a spiritual movement and this sort of thing. Governments in the West also tend to talk about the persecution of the Falun Gong as being one of China's most visible human rights abuses. The Chinese government, in turn, really hates it when the West does this. They think that we are really enabling this group that they see as a serious threat.